Let's podcast. Alongside Joe Giglio, I'm Joe Ovies inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh. Thanks to Empire Properties and thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. Print management, document management, get your stuff to the cloud, much like Cooper Flagg sent me to the cloud. After he took on his third foul, Duke was upset about a bogus out-of-bounds call. He decided to go into FU mode against Pitt last night. Steals it, goes coast to coast, power drive to the basket, and he gets it on one of the Diaz-Graham twins. I don't know which Diaz-Graham twin it was. And honestly, if I'm a Diaz-Graham twin, I'm saying, nah, it was my brother who got yammed on, not me. That wasn't me. You can't tell the difference. Regardless, that was the moment, Joe. We finally got that Cooper Flagg moment. We got the highlight.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
From a 919.
Joe and Joe sitting here watching this Duke Pitt game, and oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Cooper Flagg has told everybody in the ACC, I am here. Oh my goodness.
Okay. Put your pants back on like I did. Here's the thing about that dunk before we move on to other things. And Joe, curious your thoughts. The dunk was impressive. It was the stare down after that sold it for me. That was illustrative of what Cooper Flagg can be, as now that he's 18 years old, Joe. He's graduated to adult status, and he's now doing big boy things on the court. It was the stare down that sold it for me.
Well, what sold it for me is you were at the game.
Yeah.
So you didn't see it. ESPN went split screen, and they pulled up a highlight of Zion doing a 360 dunk on a split screen.
Okay.
Going, see?
Okay, can we all right. Okay, real quick.
ESPN did this during the broadcast. Not me.
Okay.
Not me. Okay.
So, all right.
And it was like, yeah. And then I rewatched the dunk because, like, if you look at the dunk from like a certain angle that's on the ESPN app right now, you're like, wow, he really, I'm not putting the dunk down. He had a steal. He had a path. He dunked the ball.
Mm-hmm.
The guy went up, to his credit. One of the Diaz-Grahams went up and contested.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very cool play.
Mm-hmm.
But it was not like they have this split screen of Zion doing a 360. And I'm like, it's still not the same thing.
You're right. And it's funny that they pull up that split screen because I was sitting next to Brett Friedlander.
Yes, I saw Free was chewing Josh Graham's ear, man.
I know.
Poor. I don't know which one gets the worst of that one.
No, dude, that's a nightmare blunt rotation.
We love them both.
Imagine sitting between Brett Friedlander and Josh Graham. Thankfully, I was on the outside.
Josh.
No, but I once it was all done and I processed it and I put out on social media my thoughts, I looked over to Friedlander. I said, that's going to be positioned as the Zion 360 dunk, which was against Clemson. I was there for that.
Yep.
It's not the same thing. I said what sold it and what actually crystallizes what Cooper Flagg is about was the stare down. I'm going to hammer this point throughout the show and the rest of the way. It was the stare down because, a little context, I'm listening to CBS Eye on College Basketball with Matt Norlander and Gary Parrish. And the conversation was about, similar to your Jeff Goodman joke the other day, we're not talking enough about Cooper Flagg, right? And Gary and Matt are going back and forth about how Gary's saying nobody's really talking about Cooper Flagg. He's not a national conversation. He's not really doing anything to get you to talk about him. And Matt kept saying the moment is coming. College football playoff is winding down. People are going to start focusing on college basketball. We're going to get the Duke Carolina game. We're going to start getting more Cooper Flagg stuff. And my argument to Matt when I got parked and I was walking to Cameron was I said, I get what you're saying, but there's nothing explosive about Cooper Flagg that's going to give the people what they want. That 360 dunk. Okay. And ESPN can try to make it happen like fetch all they want. You know how many times you get the alert? Cooper Flagg, layup, Cooper Flagg, step back jumper. Nobody wants that. They want the sizzle. They want that 360 dunk. That's not his game, and that's okay. That's okay.
19-10-5, man.
So
I mean, that's his game.
But what the dunk illustrated
right?
to me, yes, you're right. What the dunk illustrated to me, plus standing up to Diaz-Graham, staring him down.
It was Guillermo, if you'd prefer.
It was playing with a little bit of edge, playing with a little bit of anger, which is something that John Shire talked about class, like Steve Wiseman has the headline in the News and Observer. You wouldn't like Cooper Flagg when he's angry. And he's right. And my other immediate thought was, this is what Duke was missing with Kyle Filipowski last year in particular. We always talk about the bus driver. And this is all about the development of Cooper Flagg. When you put the defense together, the other pieces that are around, the way they rebounded against Pitt, as he develops what he wasn't able to finish against Kentucky, what he wasn't able to finish against Kansas, you'd start to think he'll probably be able to put this together again once we get to the postseason. That's what I was looking for. Do you, as the kids would say, do you got that dog in you? Which was something that Duke lacked last year. They absolutely have it with Cooper Flagg. And that's what that was about last night. Not a Zion 1-for-1. There's no way you can do a Zion 1-for-1. But you were looking for that edge. It came out for real last night.
My two thoughts on Duke last night, because Cooper Flagg was in foul trouble in the first half.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for Mason Gillis to kind of show some of his value. And if you just look at the box score, you're like, oh, he had 5 points and 2 assists. Well, what did he really do?
He had a good first half.
You're right. He played 7. But this is a guy who was a pretty big part of what Purdue did last year in the national championship game. Like, this is a valuable veteran piece that they, quite frankly, didn't have on their roster last year. So a value of a Mason Gillis is just that. You know, it's going to be a spot here, a spot there. And I was impressed with what he was able to do in the first half of this game. And then, you know, I think ultimately, you know, this team, you're going to have to get him out of Cameron to give me a little clearer picture, because I'll never trust their shooting numbers in Cameron. But when Knipple wants to make his threes, well, guess what? You know, because I think, yes, Flagg is the bus driver, but I think Knipple kind of sort of has to be the primary scorer and the primary scoring option for this team.
That was a weird first half. You mentioned the foul trouble. I think at one point, I think in the first half, they had more 3-point attempts than they had 2-point attempts. And then in the second half, it was about a defensive clampdown. I think Pitt did not have a made bucket in the last 8 minutes of the game. They were completely dominated on the boards.
Now that does travel. You know, those shooting numbers might not, but that type of defensive effort and that type of, like, this is a Pitt team that I believe can and will make the NCAA tournament.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good Pitt team.
Ohio State, West Virginia wins on their resume, and you beat them by 29. Now, you're putting it down on them a little bit. That there's some Coach K, big Coach K, like, oh, you're on the bubble?
Yeah.
Oh, how about this? Take a 30-point loss and go home.
K was in the house last night, too. He's wearing an Army quarter zip, which I thought was interesting.
Good for him. He's repping his school.
I texted Luke, what does that mean? AD? Is he going home? Who knows?
Repping his school.
We shall see. We shall see. So I mentioned that defense at the end, the rebounding at the end, and then I'm looking at the rest of the ACC schedule
for Duke.
And I floated this when the last time we talked to Matt Norlander, we had this conversation with him about Duke's going to go undefeated in the league. And you're going to look at this one of two ways. You think Duke is going to go undefeated in the league because they're that much better than everybody else? Or you think they're going to go undefeated in the league because the rest of the ACC is not going to challenge them? I'm looking at Ken Pom right now. Just about every single one of their ACC games are in the 90% range of wins, predicted wins. Like Notre Dame's 97%, Miami's 99%, Boston College 98%. Wake Forest is an 89%.
I was going to say, looking at it, I would say Wake and Clemson, those 2 road games.
So the lowest percentage they have the rest of the way is that road game you mentioned on Saturday, February 8th at Clemson. That's 77%. And then the neutral game against Illinois on February 22nd. That's 76%. And then away at the Smith Center is at 80% to close out the season against North Carolina. That is what Ken Pom is projecting. I fall more in line with the ACC just isn't good enough to truly catch Duke at this point. I'm with you in it remains to be seen what this means for Duke on the national level.
Sure.
But within the conference, I do not see, as they're constructed and having also Cooper Flagg, where it is that somebody's going to snatch them. I don't see it. Louisville's sneaky. I liked Louisville's win last night against Clemson. You and I are both on the same Brad Brownell respect train, and Clemson's a tournament team. Pitt, I think, is a tournament team. I guess this does transition us to North Carolina and whether or not they're a tournament team. Before we transition to North Carolina, we want to thank our friends at Keller Williams Commercial, the Donnelly team.
Yeah, Brian and Julie were here in the wonderful Eford Studios, they took one look around. They're like, you know what we do for a living is we help businesses, small and big. We help you with your spaces. That's what they do.
Yes.
So if you need help from Brian and Julie, give them a call. 919-616-8681. Yes, we get it. This is a very specific niche that we're fishing for here. But this is one of those classic advertising examples of like, hey, what was the name of that truck driving company? Hey, what was that Mav, from Top Gun? It's like, what was it? Well, all of a sudden, then you need it, right? So go to trianglencommercial.com. Check them out.
So North Carolina, I'll ask you the question I asked our friend Shelby Swanson. Is UNC back? Shelby's response to me was pretty funny. I mean, back. Yeah, I'm back in class today too, if that's what you're asking.
I don't know. I don't know if UNC is back, but there are very few things in this world that make me happier than when I am absolutely right about things. SMU didn't get a welcome to the ACC moment in football because, quite frankly, they went and they got like half of Miami's roster. They even got Miami's former offensive coordinator. They have other talent from the state of Texas. So, like, they joined the ACC and they were like, "Yeah, cool. We'll take care of you. We'll show you."
Yeah.
This was their welcome to the ACC moment, and it was specific. Hey, we're going to give you a home weekend game against Duke. Your building will be full. You're going to be really excited. You're probably going to lose. Oh, well, who do we play next? Hey, Jim, or in this case, Paul Brazo. I could just see the SMU overlords be like, "Oh, that's cool. We get Duke at home on a weekend. That's great. We'll sell our building out." Well, just kind of curious though, who do we play next? Oh, you're going to Chapel Hill next. Oh,
great.
Oh, and what happened in that game? Weird. It was almost like I told you, -5.5. It's almost like everyone knew what was going to happen. The only thing that could have been better is if the game was at Maryland. Right? Sure. The old school, you beat Duke or Carolina, then you play Maryland, and Maryland puts it in your ear. But welcome to the league, SMU. I'm glad you finally got here.
Yeah.
This was your time. This was your moment.
Here's what I don't want to do with North Carolina specifically. I don't want to have every loss be some sort of referendum. And I don't want every win to be like, all right, they've turned a corner. I think North Carolina is okay. They're fine. They're going to be a tournament team, as you've mentioned. But
they have a chance to play their way into the tournament. I'm just going to keep saying that. When RJ Davis is going to do what he did last night, well, guess what? Now they look like the team they were constructed to be. But I don't think it was at the expense of Ian Jackson last night. I think that's also important.
Well, it's not just Jackson, but Powell also coming on. Yeah. So, and then you get Seth Trimble back, although I know he was kind of struggling with it last night, but he played some major minutes. But I could tell there was a little PTSD with Tar Heel fans last night in the second half. They were cruising in this game. And
up 15 at the break. I mean,
to use the old Roy Williams after the first half, everything's a lot easier when the ball's going in the basket, right? And that was the case. Shots were falling. I think they were 7 of 10 from 3 in the first half, if I remember correctly. So at one point, I think they went about 4 minutes without a bucket in the second half, but SMU really couldn't get back into it because, oh, look at that. They also out-rebounded SMU. SMU might be a little bit of a fraud, but that's neither here nor there. Regardless, I think as the development of the freshmen come along and everybody starts to understand their roles, it gets to what we talked about earlier in the week. North Carolina is like everybody else in that you're putting a roster together and you have to make sure that they develop as they go along. I do think the more I see North Carolina and the more I see of the ACC, as I'm starting to watch some more ACC basketball now that we're in that mode, I do wonder if it makes the most amount of sense at this point just give in and go small ball the rest of the way.
Well, having Trimble back, I think, helps on that front.
It does help on that front.
Look at the season low in minutes for Cadeau from last night.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. We've been talking about where do you kind of make that fit? Where do you make that work? Listen, I wrote about this for OG fans. It's not an insult. I know you're taking it that way, but it's not an insult to be normal. and quite frankly, you're better than normal in the sense that your two favorite stats, normal teams don't make the national championship game 3 years ago now. Normal teams aren't a number 1 seed in the tournament last year.
Right.
So, normal in the sense you're in the thick of this thing with everyone else now. I get that. I get that that's not your standard, but It's also not the worst place to be.
No, it's not. It's not. And if we also understand in that normal, you're going to have to allow the time for this thing to come together. Well, let's see how it goes. The one thing I'll say about North Carolina, I know it's about the opportunities and the who did you beat. The one thing you can continuously say about North Carolina, and they avoided this on the road at Notre Dame. They certainly avoided it here in Chapel Hill last night. Don't do anything dumb. Their losses are not like everybody else's losses.
No, Kansas, Auburn, Michigan State, Alabama, Florida. Say what you want about Louisville, but that was on the road. I mean, I think Louisville's a tournament team.
So don't do anything dumb. They're in the Ovies don't do anything dumb protocols. And you and I usually have friction over this particular topic.
I know.
But I am adamant. I will die on that hill as it relates to the NCAA tournament. Don't do anything stupid. Kind of like how I did something stupid last night on DraftKings.
Oh, what'd you do?
Remember, I did $5 gang on that Matt Cross plus 15.
Oh, no, the ACC legend did not come home for you.
No, he did not come home for me. It's fine, though. Okay. It's fine because the $5 gang is just about doing some silly stuff. If it works, it works. That's the beauty of DraftKings. You can go about it any way that you want. And one of the most fun ways to go about it is touchdowns, baby. We got football starting up tomorrow night. We got the NFL this weekend, the wild card weekend. And of course, DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Touchdowns, really the best and most fun way to go about this. Anytime touchdowns, you think this guy's going to score a touchdown, it's just a fun way to go about it. So go $5 gang on it. And it's the number one place to bet touchdowns. So if you're ready to place your first bet, try betting on something simple like a player to score 6. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. And new DraftKings customers can get $5. If you bet $5, you will get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Again, that's bet $5. You'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. So if you think Lamar Jackson is going to prove the haters wrong and the first touchdown score of the game, go after it if you want. That's what I might do.
It's not a bad call.
How many touchdowns is Russell Wilson going to get?
Boy, the discourse around them has really
flipped. It really has. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use that promo code OG24. Again, that's code OG24. New customers, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball.
Housekeeping brought to you by Enovana. You can check them out online at enovana.com, and then they'll check out your house like they did mine yesterday.
If you have mess inside your mansion or trash in your cabana, get it clean with Enovana.
I got a new, since we're housekeeping, I got a new calendar yesterday. It's a little bit smaller.
Yeah, it's not as big as the last one.
I'm going to mark this down, though. That was the first 8th. The first Enovana is at my house today reference of 2025.
Hey, you guys have kind of beaten it out of me. So
we have. It's kind of nice to hear. Oh, yeah. Guess what? They're over at the house.
I count down the days until they come to my house every 2 weeks.
I don't blame you. They do a great job, so you should check them out.
I like a clean house. It is what it is. I also like big events. I like it when Bomani Jones is in town. I haven't seen Bomani in a while. He's going to be here on January 31st. I can tell that people have flipped over into basketball mode because, Joe, tickets are moving fast. So head on over to therialto.com and get your tickets today. The Basketball Jones, he's going to be there. We're going to be there. Tyler Hansbrough is going to be there. We got some irons in the fire for some special guests. There was a suggestion from Dimitri for possibly Skyping somebody in. I don't know. There's all sorts of things that we can do here. I know. It's funny. People still, that was my reaction was people still use Skype? It's news to me. Regardless, it's going to be a good time at the Rialto as Joe joked this week. Look, man, We're there just to kind of warm up the crowd.
Yeah, man. This ain't about us.
It ain't about us. It's about hanging out with Bomani. So that's what it's all about. So check it out, therealto.com. We're going to have an After Dark on Saturday following NC State and North Carolina. Is Paul locked in?
Yeah. I need to send him a note.
Okay.
I'll send him a link.
I might see if I can drop in from Invisalign at that time. But we'll have an After Dark on Saturday. Big thanks to our friends at Rowback. We were both rocking the Rowback yesterday. Our guy, Mitch Northrup, the women's basketball podcast.
Yeah.
OG fans. He was wearing the OG Rowback yesterday. The Rowback was so comfortable
The
yesterday.
Q-zip is...
the quarter zip.
It's a little different. Yeah.
It's not for me.
It's not, but...
But you know what it is
you
for
can
me?
pull it off.
You know what it is for me? The hoodie with the
hoodie?
blazer. I did that yesterday.
I saw that on press row. I was I spying you from the couch. It's good.
It's easy to do with the balding head. It's really just highlights.
I thought Jack Morton sent you a very tasteful artistic
No.
picture.
I'm talking about some of our listeners, like Mike, who does me dirty on Twitter.
Oh,
He's like,
yeah,
I
you
spy-
don't like that.
I spy Joe Ovies. Could you just take a picture of me looking up? Thank you. Anyway, I didn't care because I was super comfortable in my Rowback. So head on over to rowback.com. Use that promo code OG20 to save 20% off your order. You know who else texted me while I was on press row? Our guy, Matt Davis. He was in the
He was at the
building.
game with Amy. Yeah.
Give him a call, 919-779-8277, insuregarner.com, the OGinsurance.com. He thought I was too dressed up. I was like, don't misunderstand. I'm still wearing a hoodie, dude. Still wearing a hoodie. So contact Matt Davis today, and you can save money on your home and auto. Speaking of your home, you might need a new closet for all the hoodies you're buying from our corporate champions. Well,
It's a real thing.
that is a real thing. You need a hoodie closet? Well, myhtr.com. Myhtr.com is the website. Buy, sell, calculate. You can buy and sell with confidence.
Confidence, baby.
And we got a text from our guy Jared over at Two Roosters yesterday. He says, "Don't you dare tempt me to make hot dog ice cream." He might do it. He might do it, Joe, just for you.
I feel like it would be better as mustard ice cream that you put on a hot dog.
Mustard.
Yeah, let's do it.
You want to do mustard ice cream
Yeah.
that you put on a dog?
Yeah. Put like chunks of relish in the mustard ice cream.
I'm in. You sicko.
Or like a red onion or like a sauerkraut in the...
You're an absolute sicko. I am in. Let's do this. Go to tworoosters.com to find out their rotating flavors. Or better yet.
Or just get a slave and Sunday.
Right. We got all
It's
these
the
home
best
games.
deal at the arena, man.
We got
I'm
all these home
serious.
games at the arena. You know what? Just get the Slave and Sunday. and
I'm
keep
at the
yourself
arena
happy,
the
man.
next 3 nights. So
Oh, man. Speaking of powering through, you're in.
we're looking for the best deal. That's it. That's it. Brownies. The what is the Butterfingers?
No, it's Heath.
Heath.
It's Heath bar.
Okay.
A little bit of Heath bar. It's really, really good stuff.
Really good.
Well. Look who's in studio. Chip Patterson, CBS Sports Cover 3 podcast. Welcome, Chip.
It's good to be back. Hope everybody's doing well.
Glad you could be my guinea pig for the new camera setup and everything else, for the little behind the scenes. Speaking of behind the scenes, I was giving a little behind the scenes when we were talking about Rowback. Because I
Right.
had the Rowback hoodie on yesterday,
Right.
and I was lazy when I went to Cameron Indoor last night. I was like, all right, I got to be somewhat presentable sitting on press row for the Duke Pitt game. So I threw a blazer on top of the hoodie.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of those things like, why are you wearing a hoodie with a blazer? Because like Orlovsky does it. What's his face on Amazon does it? The former football player.
No, Fitzgerald and Whitworth.
Whitworth.
Whitworth definitely does it. Yeah,
Whitworth crushes the whole hoodie
Right.
with the blazer look. So I was like, you
yeah.
know
Go
what?
Dogs.
I saw David Hale last night. Even he goes, you know, I wasn't one for like a hoodie and a blazer, but it's kind of pulling it off. I'm like, honestly, I'm just super comfortable because of the Rowback. So that's kind of where your thoughts on hoodie, because you're a hoodie guy,
Right.
hoodie blazer.
I'm not there yet in my journey,
Mhm.
but I can see how you made it work because you also had blazer and t-shirt as a like part of the game
This is true
for
too.
a while.
It was
So-
advertising.
Yeah,
It was advertising.
It was advertising, but you can level up right there. But my thing is more about the sweatpants. I didn't realize how anti-sweatpants you were until you have been drug over, painstakingly. Because what's happened for me is that like of my, this sounds lame, but of my public appearances, most of them are from the waist up.
Sure.
You know,
sure.
like most of my
yeah.
life is from the waist up.
Yes.
And when I'm not, I am in a, about to be a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old boy. Like I'm in a active, like full athletic style world.
Makes total sense.
And so the times that I actually have to put pants on is more of having to meet a dress code.
Mhm.
And I think there are a lot of things, when you're bouncing around, running errands, I think that sweatpants can work.
I mean, while we're talking about it, I mean, Giglio's got his home field Wake Forest hoodie on. The sweatpants that have actually gotten me to reconsider those lifestyle choices are the home field sweatpants. When I got back from the Duke game, I couldn't wait to get into my home field sweatpants. I'm not going to wear home field sweatpants to Cameron, though.
Right. I thought that's where you were going with this.
That's not where I'm going.
The full outfit.
But again,
although
like you're only waist up.
You're right.
I think you could pull it off, except for the side eye that you would get when you go to like into the media room to mill around.
I don't know if I showed up. Seriously,
Who's judging at this point?
if I showed up in the Rob Lowe, you know what, we might as well just make this the home field read while we're doing it. Shout out to Home Field Apparel. Check them out online, homefieldapparel.com. Use that promo code OG24 to save 15% off your order. So big shouts to Home Field. They are our friends. They are our corporate champions. And yes, Giglio is rocking his Deeks. But what if I went full Rob Lowe with my home field top with a home field sweatpants? Like fully repping the brand at Cameron.
I feel like you would need a hat to go full Rob Lowe.
Okay.
Generic hat to go with.
Like an ACC hat?
Could be.
Could you if
Boy, the
if you had
ACC.
the full Rob Lowe, you might be able to stand on the other side, during the shoot around.
Yeah.
Like, just lean in against it.
Yes.
Yeah. And people would be like, oh yeah, that guy's with the team, right? Yeah.
I'm getting to it though. I see what you're saying. When you have, and guys, I remember this from the pandemic. It's not like you really cared. You're just wearing sweatpants while you're doing radio, virtually and things like that. And I guess I could technically do it here, but no, when I leave the house, man, it's got to be jeans or something. Can't be sweatpants.
So I had some car service done recently, and that was a time where I was like, okay, I'm about to go spend some money. I can't show up in sweatpants.
That's fair.
Like there's certain things that trigger.
That's
like
fair. That's fair.
People say that millennials can't do some things on phones.
Yeah.
Like can't book a flight. Like we're like incapable of doing it. It's like, no, that's a computer situation right there. There are some events that I think I do have to graduate from sweatpants to pants out of respect to what's about to happen.
Yeah, Giglio was already making the ACC. I'll reference David Hale again. I don't think he's going to get too upset if I say this, but I was surprised to see him at a basketball game. I'm like, dude, what are you doing here? Aren't we like, is it peak off-season football mode? What are you doing at a basketball game? He's like, well, I thought the ACC would at least be good in something, but here we are, right? And I mean, because we've all been making these jokes. It's not like basketball has elevated the discourse around the ACC. Everybody's kind of down bad around the ACC. And I guess this also ties into, North Carolina, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've been talking a lot about North Carolina and Bill Belichick and everything else. And I think you guys talked about this on Cover 3, in that there's maybe a misunderstanding of what exactly is happening with House and how much the teams themselves are putting in through NIL, right?
Right.
This is a conversation with NC State, the price of poker, middle class. What can you really do to identify your needs and get it right in the portal? So a lot was made out of the fact that North Carolina's spent X amount of money, but isn't that a good chunk of that related to this is just the floor because of the House settlement?
The commitment that was part of the pitch and the way that the Bill Belichick hire was being sold, the commitment is not saying we are going to spend $20 million on the 2025 roster.
Mm-hmm.
The commitment is we are going to have a war chest that is much larger than anything that Mac Brown had. And my understanding is that is so that they can elevate the tier of spending which way they are at. Like top spending team in the ACC when it comes to football investment is Florida State, but Florida State nationally is still like 10th. So you're just trying to close the gap there and understanding that at the very, very top, the tippy top, your Ohio States, your Texases, they are going to continue to push it forward because the number for that roster is going to have that House settlement, $18, $19, $20 million with another chunk on top of that so that they can be able to go out there. So we're going to be looking we're going to be looking at rosters that if you include House money plus NIL on top of that, it's going to be like 30 something million dollars probably.
And before we move on to some other things, I'm glad you brought up the Florida State aspect of this. They are the top spender, but even as the top spender, they're the lone team in the top 10.
Yeah.
Okay. and this kind of ties into basketball too. You and I have been talking about this a lot, and who's playing the game right in college basketball. The SEC is running college basketball right now for a variety of reasons. They have the money to pay the coaches, and they clearly have the money to do this NIL thing right. And there's maybe 3 teams in the ACC that seem to be doing the NIL thing right.
I mean, there's 2.
I mean, you got Duke, you got Louisville.
I mean, you got to put Carolina in.
Well,
there.
so if you're saying doing the NIL thing right,
Pitt seems to be doing that as well.
I don't
But
know
anyway.
if I fully trust, especially for basketball, the way that the player rankings are set up for the transfer portal player rankings.
Yeah.
But when you just go through and look at the top transfer portal players according to the 24/7 Sports rankings,
Mhm.
they're going to SEC and Big 12 schools.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
just if again, you have to say that is the word. Like, we believe these rankings. So with basketball being so fluid, I'm less inclined to jump on that train. But at the same time, there is clearly a market demand. Like, Bud hit me yesterday. We were talking about just ranking quarterbacks as it pertains to the playoff and elsewhere. And he was like, well, Sawyer Robertson, who's Baylor's quarterback. I was like, Sawyer Robertson, come on. And he was like, I promise you, if Sawyer Robertson hit the market right now, he would command more. Which is like, okay, cool. But what does that mean?
Yeah, what
and
does it
so,
mean?
yeah, there are going to be schools that do NIL right and don't get the results.
Mhm.
Just
Florida
Florida
State.
State.
Florida State.
or this,
I mean,
and
the
this
year before they did.
and this is
Right,
what I've been.
that's true. That's true.
I've been trying to tell this to you get the holidays, you get a lot of time with friends and family and people who don't necessarily hit me up for opinions, but when you're having a good time, conversation goes on, and they're like, I. So what do you think? And one thing that I've been telling is, just because you're spending more does not mean the results are going to change. I use Florida State as an example, where they had one of the top spending portal classes. And what did it get them? The first ever 17th place finish in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Mhm.
Texas A&M has been spending money forever just to turn in 8-4 seasons.
Yeah.
So just because you're like,
How about Miami?
it's
Did they not pay the quarterback more than anybody else?
They pay their payment of Cam Ward. It's funny, with the way that things have been tossed around, their payment of Cam Ward is going to look like a deal compared to like what's going to be tossed around
Well,
here in
heck,
the next couple seasons.
What's the number that's been tossed around for what Duke is paying the guy they just brought in?
Was it 4?
Dude, Darian Mintz is good. Darian Mintz is good,
Right?
but yeah, the market prices are it's wild. I mean, here in the Triangle, we've seen some we've seen fluctuations of prices and real estate, and this kind of feels like one of
I don't know,
those
man.
like 2022,
And that
2023 moments.
Transitions us perfectly to Riley Leonard, Duke,
Mm-hmm.
quarterbacking Notre Dame in the semifinals. The game that everybody wanted, Chip, Penn State and Notre Dame. Well, thank God we played all these games to get us to Penn State. Notre Dame. I can't wait for it to be Ohio State against James fucking Franklin. Not even James Franklin's mom likes James Franklin at this point. There isn't anyone who likes James Franklin at this point.
Okay,
Maybe his wife. Maybe.
Listen, this is where we have to take a step aside
Mhm.
and just think about an old principle and thought that I apply to college football. That is, wouldn't it be hilarious? Because
Yes.
the wouldn't it be hilarious factor in Penn State Notre Dame is absolutely through the roof. We have one coach in Marcus Freeman, promoted with 0 head coaching experience, taking over a program that was very healthy when Brian Kelly left. Players go crazy, but no one thought he had the track record or the resume to be able to take over a program of that caliber.
Mhm.
And that was only reinforced when he had 10 men on the field at the goal line against Ohio State in one of the biggest games of his early tenure. Now he gets a little bit of I got you back with what happened against Georgia, and he did all of his trickeration, run the punt team off. Okay, Marcus Freeman is maybe improving, but I know there could be some real head-scratching decision-making. And then there's Big Game James, who has seemingly avoided the rake. He goes through SMU,
Yeah.
where Kevin Jennings' brain just pops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like as happens in college football.
It was nice of Penn State to join us in the playoffs.
Like Boise, you're playing against Boise State, and just they were never going to be able to get anything done. Ashton Genty's not going to run wild. So it's not who's going to win Penn State against Notre Dame. It's who's going to lose.
Yeah.
And how's it going to go?
Yeah.
That's what I'm really excited for.
Meanwhile, Ohio State fans are still mad? Not mad?
Ohio State fans have cooled off.
They cooled off a little
Yeah.
bit, but that could change if they lose to Texas?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Because they don't.
No, if they lose to Penn State, that
Oh, okay.
That
would be.
would
Yeah, they
be-
could
that would
lose
be.
this round.
They could lose this round?
They would be okay. In the grand scheme of things, if you gave them a choice, you would rather lose in this round to the SEC team
rather than
who has the same budget as you, rather
yeah.
than either Penn State or Notre Dame.
Because Penn State and Notre Dame do not have the talent level of Ohio State.
Particularly on
Texas,
offense.
yeah, Texas does have
especially on offense.
Texas has the talent level, but they just haven't offensively been all that good. They're bad in the red zone and fall asleep at the wheel for like a quarter.
False starts and penalties. And
I guess in this particular case, it would be the equivalent because it's in Penn State. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Penn State is essentially the Texas A&M of the Big Ten in that you spend a lot of money. You're trying to be there, but you always bump up against the real big boys, and they're almost NC State like too. And that like we're going to do this, and you always lose these games against the ones you should beat. Clemson, right? Yeah. That's kind of the case with Penn State.
I think Penn State's got an inch. I didn't understand this until I really started immersing myself in the Big Ten world. But they're in the history of the Big Ten, Penn State is still kind of a recent addition.
No, I know.
And so, with everything that goes on between Ohio State fans and Michigan fans and Michigan State fans,
there's still new money.
Yeah, like the fact that they just sort of came in around the time Florida State joined the ACC, there is a little bit of that.
Fairly significant.
Penn State's that family from California that just did a tear down ITB. It's like, cool, you're here, you can afford to live here. That's great, but you don't got those connections.
Yeah, the Penn State does not have a national championship since '86.
Yeah,
it's not like they
were denied one in '94. Yes.
Okay.
Politics.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Joe, the deep down Penn State upbringing might come out here with Joe.
Whoa.
So.
Oh my gosh! Tell me that
denied one.
You've got like Penn State family, right?
Yeah.
Oh, they love Dom DeLuca, right?
I don't even know who that is.
Oh, listen, Italian safety linebacker who plays real hard. I mean, it's just
on this team.
Yeah, on this team.
Okay.
And he's come up with some huge plays. And I'm like, oh man, there's nothing that makes a lot of people in this country happy. Dom DeLuca saving the day for the Penn State Nittany Lions.
Do we have enough data after this round of college football playoff expansion to make any decisions, or does it even matter? The SEC and the Big Ten have already made up their minds as to what they want.
I don't think they've made up their minds as to what they want. I do think that everything that they want to do is threatening and posturing. Like, I think they want to be able to have leverage going into the negotiations.
But what do they want?
All the guaranteed spots.
Yeah, I mean, just
get rid of this seeding, even though Penn State was the biggest beneficiary from the cockamamie seeding.
Well, that's my question is, all these things that they say that they want, it seems that they've actually benefited in some ways by the way that things are, including the Big Ten and getting the amount of teams that they ended up getting into the college football playoff. It just seems to me that they can try to rework it any way they want, but I almost feel like they're setting themselves up for more embarrassment in that you get more guaranteed teams in only to see yourself get knocked out in those earlier rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Because look, we talked about this yesterday and you know this. You get to a point where once the top teams start to see each other, there's not much difference between the two. And that it's not NIL. We were talking about this yesterday. I'm curious what you think about. It's not, I get that NIL and the transfer era has leveled the playing field a little bit more than it used to be. But this actually goes back to the expansion of the college football playoff from the BCS to a 4-team college football playoff, where once you start opening up that pool, you are opening yourself up to allowing other elite teams from those power conferences to finally get a chance to prove it on the field. That's how Clemson gets over on Alabama. Before that, Clemson never would have had an opportunity to get over on Alabama. They would have been shipped off to the Orange Bowl while Alabama's in the Fiesta Bowl playing for a national championship in the BCS. So now that you've expanded it out even more, you get this stuff. And then you throw in home field advantages in front of 100,000 people. It's almost like, this looks a lot like college football. You're going to get upsets. You're going to get the home teams that are going to dominate their visitors. This looks a lot like college football to me.
So I do, in terms of what they are going to change, I do think the fact that the seeding set up for teams that would have been at the very top of the seed order because of their rankings, playing home games against teams near the bottom, it was a even less fair first round.
Okay.
So if Arizona State and if Boise State are seeded as they were ranked, and if Penn State and Texas were seeded as they were ranked, then you wouldn't have had necessarily those matchups. They wouldn't have even been playing in the first round.
Okay.
Now, would Arizona State in the first round and Boise State in the first round ultimately have led to different results? Who's to say? But that's the only thing that I think we could change before 2025. My issue is that we are creating a postseason format that is a playoff. Like it, and do you know what? Who wins the playoffs? The best team in the playoffs.
I don't know about that.
The healthiest team in the playoffs.
Okay, I'll give you
Who gets hot in the playoffs?
Well, see, but I think that's what people are trying to prevent. Because let me put it this way. And this is a byproduct of how we talk about college football versus any other sport, right? It's all built for arguments. We spend every Tuesday for 6 weeks or whatever it is, making hypothetical arguments about who should be in, who could beat who, and things like that.
Right.
And then we use the early results of the college football playoff to augment or detract from those points that were made. And it leads to broadcasts that are continuing this argument in the middle of a game.
Yeah, that was
That's kind of lame.
Yeah.
It's kind of lame. Like, you don't hear that in the NFL. Like, for instance, I know the result of the Ravens and Steelers this weekend will not be, well, did the Ravens and the Steelers belong in the playoffs, right? It'll become is Mike Tomlin, does he need to go find another place? Lamar Jackson, is he a fraud? Is he not? You know what I'm saying?
Did you see the people doing that with the Cincinnati Bengals? They were doing the college football playoff argument for the Cincinnati Bengals.
I didn't see that.
Well, I know
They've won 5 in a row.
I know they lost, but you got to think, who do you not want to play?
Okay.
The Cincinnati Bengals. You got to put them in there. Let's get them out.
But you see how dumb that argument is when you apply it to the NFL?
100%.
So that's why I don't see the NFLification of this. It, if anything, it makes it like set up worse for these types of arguments that make people mad.
I think it diminishes the regular season, unquestionably.
Yeah.
The idea that really good teams now have another mulligan diminishes a little piece of the regular season.
Okay.
And if they're doing that in place of something that they think is awesome and will continue to grow the sport, that's fine. I hadn't always understood that. And I do really enjoy the rhythm of the regular season, the intensity of every single Saturday, the idea that you feel like your season could be sitting there on a tightrope on a Saturday afternoon in a road game. And I just think that especially for teams in the SEC and for teams in the Big Ten, you've just created a little bit of a bigger safety net. And you know what? Like, that's fine, but I think it, without a doubt, diminishes on some level the regular season.
Yeah, for those high-end teams, I think it elevates. The whole point of the playoff was to expand its national scope. The entire, this side of the country was excluded for all of these years because it was all Southeast and in here and things that we care about. So I think getting Arizona State, Boise State, getting some other teams into this Oregon, I know they've been there before, but getting the Pac-12, if you will, involved in the Big 12 after, some years there where Oklahoma and Texas had fallen off, getting them involved and getting their fan bases and those different races involved, those add value to the regular season. But to your point about Ohio State, Ohio State gets this is where the NFLification comes. Okay. They have to square. It's okay to lose to Michigan.
Okay. Yeah.
Because you're still in. And then once you get in, now they did not have a dream draw.
No,
they had a difficult draw. Tennessee in that opener was difficult, and they
crushed them.
They get an Oregon team. I'm still trying to figure out how Oregon beat them the first time. I lost money on that game, of course.
But that's what I like. It will be if Ohio State wins, it will be a worthy champion. I am not going to say it is an unworthy champion, especially
now
with
they're playing Texas.
Yeah, especially with the path that they would have taken. But if Ohio State wins the national championship, it does show that if you are one of these teams at the very, very top of the very top conferences, then you can dick around a little. And it's not going to cost you your season.
Let me see how you answer this question. See, you went to Carolina and I went to State. And I have an answer for this question. Who would you rather be this year? Even if they win the national championship, who would you rather be this year? Ohio State or Michigan? Fan. I'm talking fan at the bar. Who would you rather be at that bar making arguments?
And in classic North Carolina fashion, I'm going to offer a loophole here. I'm going to find a little bit of an edge. So my answer
it was offered to all students.
My answer is Michigan.
Yes.
And here is why. Because for the second season in a row, you beat Ohio State and Alabama.
Yes.
And you just stole Bryce Underwood from LSU, the #1 player in the country. So you are exiting this season and you're like, man, that was disappointing, but we beat Ohio State for the 4th year in a row. We beat Alabama in the bowl game and they were trying. Yeah. Jalen Milroe was out there. They were not all opted out. And we go into next year like, man, we're a top 10 team. Let's go win it again.
I so badly want to clown both of you for this general take,
but you can't.
But I can't. And the reason why, as I've had some time to pull a Giglio and reflect on a conversation, and hearing you guys talk about this and thinking about it a little bit more, it's hypocritical of me to argue what makes college football, especially around here. Okay. Right? Like, we don't have national title contenders in the triangle, so we're just going to take it for what it is. Right. Triangle good, beat your freaking rival, don't do anything stupid, right?
Win your home games.
Hey,
win your home games.
We'll get to that to close things out. So yes, if I'm going to stay consistent on this is what makes college football great, is this regional crap. You know what? You guys are right. It probably is better to be Michigan because, like you said, you knocked off Alabama, you ruined. I mean, you set Ohio State into the
spiral. Just
an absolute spiral of talk to the point where Kirk Herbstreit, you got Buckeye on Buckeye crime taking place in Columbus, where their radio hosts are calling Kirk Herbstreit a douchebag, like all sorts of stuff. He's online. Now he's saying, I'm not online anymore. It's my kid who tweets. Like, it is just a civil war at Ohio State, all because you lost to Michigan, right?
The only equivalent to this, and it did not happen, but the only equivalent to this that I could see would be if Carolina had lost to Duke in the Final Four in 22, I would still rather be Carolina and say, well, I beat K in his last home game.
Yeah.
Than Duke, whatever happens after that game. Now, obviously, Carolina had their cake and ate it too.
They did.
That's what it's a similar kind of construction, right? Where you're like, yeah, cool, but I got that one.
Sure.
I got over on
that makes
you.
That makes total sense.
But if you're Ohio State and then you win it, then you go
full UConn.
Well, then you've leveled the score in a way that you and I were talking about. So 91-92 followed by 93. 2009 followed by 2010. And then 15 is followed by 17, but with 16 kind of in there too, 16, 17. And so it's like, that is what makes great like college sports rivalries among those like top programs is when you can go bluff. When Auburn wins the title a year after Alabama wins the title, like that stuff is
that is good stuff. Which ties us back to the triangle, and we'll close on this. We'll actually go to the OG sports phone to set this up because I think it's an interesting thought experiment.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
All right, this came to us from a 919 number.
Hello. So Ovies is laughing at the boomer or whatever and saying he's making a big deal going out visiting high school places. Well, he's a college football coach, so that's kind of his job, and he's doing his job. And if you guys want to monitor his every minutiae of activities, maybe you should do what you really want to do and go over and follow your boy at NC State. Have a good day.
Minutia.
The minutia. So I've also received this comment on social media that there's no way you would talk about Bill Belichick the way that you're talking about Bill Belichick if it was at NC State. Of course, I said that's a trick question. Bill Belichick would never take the NC State job, which the person went, okay, good point. We had a listener, I think on YouTube, he's RLS22. I think that's the username. Ryan is the gentleman's name. And he says, look, guys, I'm a UNC guy. I love your podcast, but the smugness on the Bill Belichick stuff is kind of disappointing. And I'm like, I'm just making jokes because I find this stuff fascinating. It is completely fascinating. And I would bring the same level of energy. Hypothetically speaking, let's say that Bill Belichick did show up at NC State. He fulfilled the request that I've always had. Oh, you think you're this Hall of Fame football genius? Go win at NC State, okay? Go overcome that. Anyway, the point is, I would still view it the way that I view it because you have this 6-time Super Bowl champion head coach, one of the greatest to ever do it. As Giglio pointed out, no NFL team seems to want you. Your back channel communications tell you nobody wants you. And now you're at UNC doing things that I got to imagine that NFL executives are watching going, man, can you believe this? Here's this guy that was at the height of things, and now he has to get into a car with his kid and go visit a recruit. This attitude of, he's doing these things. Joe, as you pointed out, oh, look at that. A North Carolina coach went to a Charlotte area high school and pulled a big old defensive guy. who's
Never been done before.
never been done before. You know, Mac's probably watching this going, are you kidding me?
Right.
I don't know. I guess I've said this before. I don't know if Mac curses, but I got to imagine Mac is watching this stuff going, are you fucking kidding me? Right. So I think people are misconstruing what I'm getting at. This is bizarre.
Right.
It's bizarre. And all I can do is react to it in real time as this guy is doing McAfee hits on FaceTime. Well, I'm off to go to a high school recruit. Look at me. I'm doing North Carolina things. I went to Lexington barbecue.
I think it's blowing his mind too.
It must be.
I truly believe it's blowing his mind too. I think he's riding around with his son and he's like, isn't this crazy? You know, like I think that he is like
he riding around with his son going, isn't it crazy? Or is he riding around with his son going, isn't this crazy?
It's so much money.
Carolina.
Look at all this money.
We turn the University of North Carolina, the oldest, the bell in the well, into our personal ATM. Isn't this awesome?
He's just Lexington South barbecue's on them. Let's go.
In y'all's defense,
Yeah.
you do this
Is this my share of the OG money?
No, I have not.
Oh, okay.
You do this with any new head coach.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, first and foremost, any new hire is interesting.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who, any new hire, we're going to track all of the staff changes. We're going to track all of the portal movement. We're going to look at all the instant recruiting moves. Like all of that is far more interesting. On CBSSports.com, part of our national college football coverage, grading the first year coaches, looking at the first year coach. You get grouped into this in a way that's not as interesting for somebody going into year 13.
Mm-hmm.
Number two,
it's very specific, Chip.
Well, you made the NC State reference.
Well, that's what it gets to the other part of it. This idea that your boy say, and I'm sitting here wondering, like, sometimes I wonder, what are you guys listening to when you listen to the podcast, right? And I appreciate North Carolina people that tune into the podcast. We know we have our North Carolina people. We know we have North Carolina football fans. We know all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to NC State, I mean, I think we've spent a good chunk of this offseason basically putting it there on a platter to illustrate fans are done with that man.
Right.
And it's like there's no more, like we can contextualize middle class, as Joe likes to say, but it's only fair and representative of where we're at to give to you. This is where we're at with NC State. You can say the program's in a good spot. You can say the program has something that it's never really had before, which is like stability, consistency. Yeah. They put guys in the NFL. He doesn't get in trouble. I get all those things, and I can check off all those boxes. But there comes a point, getting back to the regional nature of it, your Michigan, Ohio State question. Buddy, it's great that you've beat North Carolina, but that ECU showing was a shit show.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing. Losing to Wake Forest continuously, that becomes a problem. Losing to 3 different levels of Duke coaches in your tenure, David Cutcliffe, Mike Elko, and now Manny Diaz in the fashion that you did. At some point, you have to be fair to this and give the fans credit. Like, fans aren't idiots. They watch this stuff and, all right, fine, we'll support you. We show out. Not only do you get asked for more money, then you get told, well, I also need you standing on third down. Well, what's standing on third down going to do when you play like a freaking turtle in the last quarter, right? Yeah. So to act as though we're sitting here in this position of like, now about Dave. No, I think this year we've been very fair about presenting, fans are done with this shit. And I understand why.
Right. There are 0 results to point to. There is nothing to be able to grab onto. And all Bill Belichick is doing is asking to be talked about.
Yeah.
He is asking to be talked about with his arrival in social media, with his appearances on McAfee.
Yep.
And what it is entertaining.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and
it is. Absolutely.
As people who are in the intersection of sports and entertainment business, you're like, yeah, this is super entertaining.
Give it to me.
I don't think that it's not even a cheap, like, oh, it's good for business. Like, yeah, sure it is. But it is also like, it is blowing everyone's mind. It is entertaining. I have no idea if this is going to go, how this is going to go at all. The results could be the same.
I think they're going to be the same. I honestly think they're going to be the same. But anybody who
they'll be better. I just don't think they're going to lose any game because of him. That's a huge advantage.
College is different, man. College is different. But I will say this, to your point, anybody who says they know how this is going to end is lying.
Right.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Unless
we'll check it out.
Unless it is generational wealth for all of the Lombardis and Belichicks for years to come. We got 2 Lombardis and 2 Belichicks. How many in a Freddie Kitchens? Oh, okay. At least we've got a Freddie Kitchens.
Got that, right? Chip Patterson, CBS Sports Cover 3 podcast. Hey man, we appreciate you hanging out. You're gonna be traveling, right?
Yeah, we have the Cover 3 tailgate live at Tannehill's Tavern in Fort Worth, Texas. I know y'all are huge in Fort Worth. It'll be the night before the Cotton Bowl. Here's what we got for you. An hour-and-a-half Cover 3 live show, and then an Orange Bowl watch party. So it's going to be a little like snowy, wintry mix in the area. You don't want to go hopping around. You want to come in. We'll have half-off pizzas. We got drink specials. And you want to hang out with the Cover 3 guys watching Penn State and Notre Dame the day before the Cotton Bowl.
When you say it's the tailgate, do I get to shout at you like it's the YouTube comment section live?
Yeah.
Or do I submit to you on an index card, hey, this is what I just wanted to say in the comment section, so here you go.
What we are actually building in 3 different sec times for like people to get in line and ask questions.
All right.
So it'll be
like that.
Yeah, we'll do like a little bit of talk about Penn State, Notre Dame. Anybody who wants to ask questions. A little bit of talk about Ohio State, a lot of talk about Ohio State, Texas, because that's the game kind of where we're at.
Yeah.
And then one at the end, an AMA. And AMA could be anything.
It could go anywhere.
Emphasis on that A.
It's like the OG mailbag. I don't know where it's going to go. Chip, appreciate it, man. Safe trip.
Sounds good. Y'all be well.
Big thanks to Nature's Relief for being a corporate champion. They got locations all across the triangle, and it is more than just, hey man, get me a gummy so I can melt on the couch. No. They have alcohol alternatives like the sodas. You have things like 5 Flowers. They also have alternative wine to check out. All sorts of ways to check out what they're doing with THCA Delta 9.
Oh, yeah. Garner off of Western Boulevard, the old school one there down Glenwood. Go find them. They're in your neighborhood.
And look,
chill out.
You might just be wanting to find something to help you sleep, something to kind of take a little anxiety out. You also know what else helps with that sort of stuff? Working out.
It does.
Working out a sweat. That's what it's all about. O2 Fitness can help you with that. Check them out at o2fitnessclubs.com, but it goes beyond just having great equipment, great staff, great locations, because you ain't going to the gym if it's too far.
No, it has to be convenient. How about the equipment?
Equipment's great.
Listen, people, I get it. You probably, you take ice cream advice from me. You don't really take gym advice from me. I respect that.
Yeah, but I'll take creaky neck advice from you.
I respect that. But part of my advancement now in my physical therapy with Renew Physiotherapy is we're doing more exercises in the actual gym itself. And I'm sitting here going, man, first of all, it's been a long time since I've been in a gym, obviously. But 2, look at all this amazing equipment now. Like, this isn't like stuff. 1984 Spartan stuff. Like, this is like, okay, this is top level stuff.
You're not picking up a dumbbell
clean, not like crazy crowded. I was in there the other day, and I know it's January, and I know how some people get about January in gyms.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, they have it all.
You mean you're not picking up a dumbbell off a cinder block? Is that what you're doing?
No, I was not. What are those? The strongman competition? You like throwing refrigerator? I mean, hey, man, to each his own. Everyone's got to run their own race, right? Big thanks to Whitaker and Hamer. Check them out online at wh.lawyer. We were talking about commercial real estate earlier. Maybe you do need a warehouse. You're running a business. You got to knock out contracts. All things that Whitaker and Hamer can help you out with. Attorneys and counselors at law. And of course, our friends over at Longleaf Swine. Check them out, longleafswine.com. Maybe you are peak millennial. You want a brunch. Longleaf. How did it go? Oh, my brother's still salty about the brunch. The comment. But he went. Oh no, he texted me. Yeah. My phone's on 1% because I don't know why my phone's not it. But what did he text me? Oh, does it work on? No, it doesn't. No, it's fine. It's fine. I'll be fine. Okay. Yeah, he texted me yesterday at 5:08. You are being so cringe on the show today. I'm like, yeah, that's by design. And it's like, to be fair, I texted you after you said I had already texted you. Like, yeah, okay, fair point. Anyway, Longleaf, I know it's cold outside, but here's the thing about Longleaf. They've got an enclosed patio area with heaters. And more importantly, to keep you warm, I'll put their bourbon selection up with anybody else's. I was going to say also our friends at Longleaf have convinced me that Rumplemints in small doses can really help you. I'll just, you know what? We'll move on.
joining us on the Heister Automotive
Who's the professional now?
Right. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, Bennett, you're getting the flub just for free, baby, is Mike Sundheim. Sonny, look, dude, we've known each other for nearly 30 years, and I used to know your job title, and now you have a much fancier job title, so I went to the website to look it up. Vice President of Communications.
That's right.
Congratulations, dude. Look at you making something out of your life.
And you used to have a full head of hair, and I used to have dark hair.
And as you and I were in the concourse of the arena at one point this year, look at us in the same dang concourse 30 years later. Who would have thought, right? Yeah. Who would have thought? And here we are preparing for an Eric Staal number retirement Hall of Fame ceremony this weekend at the building. It's pretty incredible.
I know. It's like a full circle type thing.
Now, I wanted to talk to you. Used to have a blog back in the day called The Guy Behind the Guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's sometimes.
But I do think it's an appropriate thing. And I was thinking about this with Staal, and we've talked about it with Luke Takak, and Joe and I have talked about this, and you can talk to any number of former players. And I think you're kind of going to get the same thing. But so I wanted to approach Eric Staal and his position with the Carolina Hurricanes a little bit differently and talking to you about it, because you were there in concert with him kind of becoming, for lack of a better term, the first Carolina Hurricanes player to break local contain. This was a guy who was positioned as a national player, somebody that could be discussed on the big shows, get you on a national broadcast. Heck, a GQ shoot with the birthday cake and everything else. On eBay right now, you can find it for $12. Dwayne Wade is on the cover. But you actually have some ripped out pieces of this, right?
There it is.
That people can see if you're watching on YouTube. So that was like my overall kind of thesis on this, and that Staal, where he was picked, his skill level, everything else kind of helped put the Canes on a much more national map, just as much as the Stanley Cup can. But Staal was that guy.
For sure, he was that guy. And in a way, you can almost argue he's still the only guy that's really broken that through. Like,
more so than Aho?
I think Aho's getting there, but we're not getting GQ requests for Sebastian Aho. He's not in the front of a video game yet. Svechnikov kind of got a piece of it when he was doing the lacrosse goals for a little bit, but I don't know that anyone's fully gotten to the level that Eric got in those years after the Cup run.
I remember when Eric was drafted, I remember him living in Ron Francis's like guest house or in one of the wings of the mansion there. And I to me, when I see him, we saw him in the playoffs a couple of years ago. I'm like, you're still that kid to me, right?
He still looks pretty young.
He does.
He does.
Yeah. Jordan, to me, even though he was the younger brother, always looked like the older brother.
Yeah, he's a little more grizzled.
Yeah, and it was like when I saw him during that Florida series, I'm like, hey man.
Yeah, like he's a youthful face.
Yeah, and I remember the first time he saw me outside of the locker room or like a road trip or whatever was we were at Cameron, and he's sitting behind the bench on the Duke side, and he looks across. I mean, he's 18. He's from Canada. He didn't know anybody. He looks across. He sees me. He's like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like,
"Yeah,
I work. That's what I'm doing.
That's what I do for a living, man."
It was just like this whole wide-eyed experience for him. So to see him, obviously, at the beginning of that journey, and then to be such an important part of the Stanley Cup team. And I know he gets a lot of the blame, criticism, if you will, for some of the dark years, but I hope this serves as a way for Canes fans to kind of remember how important he was to this team and the market.
And I kind of want to talk about that because this is a hill I'll die on, that Eric and Cam both got unfair blame for those years.
Okay.
Because I can look back at those rosters, and it's almost laughable, some of the teams that we put out there during those years. And that's just a product of not spending the cap. Like, we weren't spending the cap until Tom Dundon bought the team and started spending the cap. It is awfully hard to compete in this league if you're spending $10 to $15 million less than every other team.
Yeah.
Like, we had years where basically 4 or 5 of our starting 6 on defense never played in the league after playing for us.
Yeesh.
Like, if you look at those rosters, you're like, wow, I forgot about that guy. What happened to him after he wasn't here? and he was in Europe or the American League or retired. Like it was, you look back at those years and like, again, I defend Cam too, because the defenses in front of Cam, with the exception of a couple notable names, were not what we've had in the last 5-6 years.
Now I feel like we're having a conversation on the 5th floor of the arena that we might have during intermission. We're achieving said goal. My argument with Cam Ward was always, and we'll get it back to Staal here in a second, but since you brought up Cam Ward and those teams, it's not like they didn't bring in people to replace him. It's just that the people that they brought in to replace him never actually lived up to whatever it was they positioned them to do. So they went back to Cam, who played consistently well for them.
Because he was better than all of those guys.
Yeah, and like,
at the end of the day,
what are you supposed to do when the guy that you're supposed to replace him with isn't as good as Cam Ward? And I think that, to tie it back to Staal, and I'm guilty of this, and this is where marketing comes in, and your job as the vice president of communications, you present the team in a particular way. And I understand why Rod Brindamore is the face of the 2006 Stanley Cup championship. I understand now that he's the coach, that it is all part of the lore, the marketing. He is now one of us. You see him at Invisalign, all that stuff, right? But Eric Staal was a dude in the Stanley Cup playoffs throughout the entire thing. He led all players in scoring in that year. And I almost feel like it's kind of been hand waved away. Is it because of what had happened after the Stanley Cup and when he became the captain that kind of ties into that?
And I think people associate him with some of the dark years because he was the captain of the team. But I think when you really look at the roster of those, like, it's almost amazing how well he did during those years, how many points he was still putting up. And for me, like, I look back at those years and it's easy to do all the media and do GQ and FHM. Does FHM still exist?
I don't think it does. I think there's like a carcass of Maxim that still exists.
Exactly.
But anyway,
so it's easy to
different eras.
It's easy to
no kidding.
It's easy to do those things when you score 100 points and you win the Stanley Cup, or when you're the All-Star Game MVP, or all those things.
Yeah.
But like the way he handled himself during those years, like he took it on his shoulders. Like he accepted the blame. He stood up and talked to you guys after all those tough losses in the Pray for Maniscalco era and everything else. And Mike. So, I think, for me, I remember those moments too, as, showing me the kind of person he was, that he knew it wasn't his fault that we weren't spending the cap. He knew what our roster looked like compared to some of the other rosters, and he was going to still go up there and say, I need to be better. Yeah. He was going to put it on himself. And that's just the kind of person he was.
The other thing that I find interesting, you mentioned the GQ photo shoot, and you brought the archive over with the birthday cake and everything else.
I mean, it's a classic. I mean, look at this. I mean, can you imagine? Like,
look at that.
Walking in a locker room after this.
That's exactly what I was going to say. What was, because again, you're there. You're kind of like the fly on the wall when everybody's doing their normal locker room antics, and they'll give each other shit.
Yeah.
What was that like when the photo shoot finally came out and the magazine was in hand? What was that like for Staal?
I mean, I think he was knowing him. I mean, he was embarrassed.
Of course he was.
But at the end of the day, most of those guys are just jealous.
Yeah.
They want to be in GQ. Like that's like the peak of cool. Like you're in GQ magazine in a photo shoot and an article. So that's pretty high up there. So I think, there was some good natured.
Oh, I'm sure. But
things going on. Let him eat cake, and but still pretty cool.
But this is also very not. I remember I asked Eric Cole this one time about the nature of hockey players. They're not one for the spotlight like this. This is not something that they're very. No. They're not brought up to seek out the spotlight. They just want to go to work, do their thing, play hockey, go home, hang out with their boys. So to do that is very much out of your comfort zone.
No doubt about it. Like he grew up on a sod farm. Like,
right.
This is
this is not engineered to be a hockey player.
Right.
And nothing else.
But at the same time, I think he accepted that he was that guy for us. Like he was a second overall pick. He was going to be the face of the franchise. He was the face of the franchise. And he accepted that this was part of it. And that going to the All-Star games and doing the media and going to the annual NHL media tour and all those kind of things were part of what his responsibility was, given his status in our organization and trying to take our organization to the next level as a company and a team.
Joe, you stayed connected with the Canes more so during the dark years than I did because I didn't have to.
Right.
So basically 2009 was like the last time I did anything until you guys were back into the playoffs. And I remember running into Jordan and Eric at the US Open.
Yeah.
You know, and Eric is a way that you could, you know, I mean, like I say, the kid was 18. So like when I see Eric, we have the same conversation that we did. You know, you pick up kind of sort of right where you left. It's like, yeah, obviously we're not friends, but it's like an old friend, right? Like you kind of pick it up and you see it. So I see him and I go, man, I got some. This speaks to his like not really loving the spotlight part of it, like understanding it, but not being like. I see him and I go, hey man, I got to tell you, I was pumping gas the other day. I was living in Garner at the time, and I said, somebody has a license plate, STAALKER. Stalker. And I go, and they had like the Canes bumper sticker, the Canes logo, and all this other stuff. And he was like, you sure it was about me? And I'm like, well, I said, it could be Jordan. I said, no, I think it was you. And he was like, oh God. He's like, that's terrifying. I was like, hey man, I just wanted to let you know. I said, I can look it up for you. I can run it for you. Yeah. We can figure it out just in case something happens to you. But yeah, man, that's kind of the way that he had kind of resonated with the fans. You know, Stalker.
Jeez. Okay. All right. So we got an alumni game.
We do have an alumni game on Monday, 7:00.
You got a
$20 tickets.
Red carpet affair as well.
Red carpet affair is on Sunday. Pre-game, 1:00.
Mm-hmm.
All of the dignitaries that are coming to town, both as Stahl's guests and our guests, will be there. Folks can mix and mingle. There's a nice gift that comes with it. There'll be a panel discussion with Chad LaRose and Ray Whitney, Mike Commodore, Eric Cole. So
all the characters.
You know what he gets though, which you guys should really sell.
Yeah,
those Hall of Fame jackets.
He does get a Hall of Fame jacket.
Have you seen them?
I've seen them. They're good.
If we sold them, that would kind of defeat the purpose.
I know.
That's like selling a green jacket. Like you're going to sell the Masters green jacket.
So,
I know.
And that gets to the whole purpose of the Hall of Fame.
We could sell them though.
And when you, that's true. So when you all started this up, and I know you spearheaded this with the Hall of Fame, I do find it interesting that, look, you got some no-brainers.
Yeah.
Ron Francis automatically in. I get that. You have Rod. I get that. Glenn Wesley. I get that. But Stahl is the first actual, like, for real, from the draft through all that. The first actual Cane, if you will. So that has to mean a lot to you too, because I mean, heck, man, you're coming out of college, it's your first gig, and you've been there since. So
it does. So yeah, I mean, I started in 2000. So we had the 02 run, which was cool, and we got on. We kind of made a lot of inroads for that, but then we had a terrible season.
Yep,
ton of injuries. We had all these random players that scored goals for us that year. If you look back, it's also funny to look at some of the names.
We could totally do a contest with you called "Let's Remember Some Guys."
Yeah, and there'll be some I forget because I'm pretty old now.
Yeah, so you are pretty old. We'll just hit one with you. We'll go to the hockey reference and see. Does Mike remember this guy? Maybe not. But anyway.
But for me, Eric was he was younger than me, obviously, because I was out of college and he was 18 years old when we drafted him. But in a lot of ways, I, especially now that I'm much older and we have players that are from a completely different generation than me. I always saw Eric as a little bit of a contemporary. Like we were married around the same time. Our first kids were born the same year. So at this point in my life, I have a lot more in common with him in terms of things we can talk about with life. So, for me, I kind of saw him, career-wise, we were aligned. Like I watched him from that, 18-year-old to draft to having that breakout season to going to All-Star games and winning the awards. So, for me, this is, it's special. Like Rod Brind'Amour's an icon.
Sure.
But he's older than me, so I remember watching Rod Brind'Amour, as a fan when he played for the Flyers.
Right. Same.
Like others. And, I love Sebastian Aho, but he's considerably younger than I am. So I don't have, we're not like,
And don't get me started on Jarvis. By the time I have to put the math together, I'm like, wait a minute, you're not that much older than my oldest kid.
Yeah.
Ah, crap.
No,
okay. They're babies.
I mean, look, at this point, we've got, Riley Stillman's been in the locker room as a player.
Stillman,
they're
Kasperi Kapanen, just seeing him playing against him, I'm like, oh, that's the one that always gets me. Speaking of 02, because I remember
there's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of those little guys that are now like
Skyler.
Legitimately like veteran professional hockey players, not even like new hockey players. So like Riley Stillman would be considered he's kind of a veteran journeyman defenseman at this point.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Agree with that.
And he was, again, a child running around the locker room in 06, just like we have Brooks Brindamore and his friends running around the locker room these days.
Well, Brooks is a bit of you talk about contemporaries and things like that, because Mike has a kid in junior canes. I have a kid in junior canes. And it is funny how there's like a little bit of what's Brooks doing? That's always a funny conversation. Even Jacob, and to this day, he'll say like, hey, remember that time I won the face-off and I helped secure a goal against Brooks Brindamore? I'm like, okay, dude, get over it. Let's move on. Yeah. Let's score some new goals, shall we? But anyway, so what's next? We got Staal. I mean, do we have the next one ready? You gonna make an announcement?
Who's next after Eric?
Yeah.
Like who's gonna go in the Hall of Fame or who's gonna have their number retired?
The whole thing, the whole shebang.
I mean, I think with number retirements, this is the first one in like 15 years. Number retirements are pretty sacred.
Yeah. Okay.
Like
I agree with you on that.
Like the New York Yankees are like out of numbers to assign at this point.
Right.
Like we don't want to turn into that.
You don't want to be like the Tar Heels. You just don't want to have a bunch of things up in the rafters.
We can do the honored. We can do the honored, and that's what we're doing with the Hall of Fame. That's why you have the honored, and there are definitely some people that are ready to be honored, in my opinion.
Okay.
So I think we can get into those debates, but there are some names.
I have my opinions.
Who do you think should be next?
Well, I'm trying to say, who's in it now? Off the top of it, I can't remember now.
Justin, Cam, and the now soon to be 4 retired jerseys.
Okay.
Six players.
6 players total.
I mean, you're out of no-brainer territory, so you have that going for you.
Yeah, I guess you are out of no-brainer territory.
I was always partial to Jeff O'Neill, personally.
I believe Jeff O'Neill belongs in it. I don't think he'll be the next one.
Yeah,
but I believe he belongs.
Well, then when you start getting into old-timey favorites, yes, you have a Jeff O'Neill, you have a Bates Battaglia, you have Eric Cole.
Eric Cole to me is pretty no-brainer.
That's
pretty close to no-brainer.
I would say I would agree with you on that one.
Two stints with the team.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Eric
Stanley Cup champ,
broken neck.
The broken neck. I mean, he was a storyline in of itself. So yeah, I mean, to me, Cole would be the obvious choice. But then, you have to start going into some old timers.
Ray Whitney.
You need to get the Archie Herbe.
Oh, Arch for sure. For the quote alone.
There's all kinds of.
But put him in, honor him or trade him.
But the hard part is there is a very high percentage of our fan base who have no idea who Archer Herbe is.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
There's a high percentage of our fan base that, season ticket wise, it's a pretty low number how many were season ticket members when Eric Staal was here. So even this is more of a throwback than you think. Like it's a pretty young fan base. A lot of, we're not selling out games in 2015.
Well, I was gonna say it ties it to the start of this conversation and where Stahl's place is with this team and why people contextualize in the way that they do. Because again, this is good for business. The bunch of jerks year, getting back to the playoffs in 2019, having Rod be the head coach, Dunn's ownership. Yes, it's brought in a new influx of younger fans who might not have that context, which is why we're here, to have these conversations. So I guess the conversation that we're having really is of the current group. I think I know.
I was going to say the next 2 no-brainers are Slavin and Fishy. Those are the next 2 no-brainers.
Right. Those would be the ones, right? Yeah. Okay. That would make the most sense.
Somebody's got to give Slavin his flowers. Somebody. Other than my 2 Roosters people.
Mike Sundheim, Vice President, Communications for the Carolina Hurricanes, a.k.a. SID, Media Relations, however you want to put it. Everybody gets these fancy titles. I love it. Does a heck of a lot of stuff. And is a walking Wikipedia entry for the Carolina Hurricanes. Mike, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for reading that GQ stuff, dude. That's a throwback. The best part about going through those magazines from like 06 is what's being advertised and guessing how much of those industries no longer exist.
Heyday, man.
I don't know what a Abreva is. What is that?
Yeah,
that's a cold sore.
That's a cold sore.
Oh, cool.
And those got replaced by Zinnies.
This looks like
chewing tobacco.
That's chewing tobacco.
Yeah.
Now everybody's doing zinnies. Anyway, man,
I
we
don't even know
appreciate.
what a zinnie is.
Fake.
Do I
dip.
want to know?
It's fake.
It's a pouch.
It's
Okay.
it's fake dip. It's fake dip.
Okay.
So I'm sure.
Better not find any of that around Franklin's room.
Yeah, well, Jacob's coach is all about the Zen life.
Oh, okay.
You see the pouch
see
in his
that.
pocket. You see the pouch in his pocket. He's ready to go. Shout out to Shane. Anyway, we appreciate you dropping by, man. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks for having me.
We took a hockey break with our friend Mike Sundheim. That was fun. I enjoyed that.
Take a break. Let's take a hockey break. Brought to you by Happy and Hill.
We get it. You're doing like a dry January. You're trying to make up for what you did to yourself all through December. That doesn't mean you have to compromise on really good, delicious food. It's all there at Happy and Hail, Joe.
I'm ready.
So check them out. Download the app today to make it super convenient for you to get in and out during your lunch break, or maybe just picking up something quick for dinner. Speaking of being able to get in and out, let's say you're going to some of these hockey games the rest of this month. You know what's really easy and convenient in terms of parking?
Going across the street to the breeze through.
Yeah, do it. It's a heck of a lot cheaper. Plus, they got coffee, which is really, really important right now. Keep yourself warm and keep yourself awake. So check out breezethrough.com. Download the app so you can save money on gas.
Oh, no, I think we already had a meeting, but I have us ticketed for the 23rd.
What are we doing? Meeting?
I have us ticketed for the 23rd at breeze through. You okay with that?
That's a Thursday?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They play that night.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here for that.
Perfect.
So that'll be easy to do. So check us out on the 23rd. We'll have a good old time. We're going to be in the beer cave. It'll probably be warmer in the beer cave than it is.
I would prefer not to be in the bear cave, or I guess I could just layer up.
Yeah, why don't you layer up like an adult?
I like the parking lot for like a pregame.
Oh, you want to do
that.
a parking lot?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe do it at like 3.
Okay.
Because it would like lead us up to the game. That's what I was thinking.
That's fine.
These are my thought process.
You texted Dundon yet?
No, I have not.
I don't know. See if he wants to pull up in his Bugatti.
I pull up.
Anyway, check out breezethrough.com and find ways to save money. If you're looking at tailgating for these games, go get the hot dogs. Go buy 8 tons of hot dogs, store them like Giglio, and then just feed yourself the rest of the year.
Hey, man.
Look, it goes beyond just the hot dogs. Butcher's Market's got all sorts of good stuff. I told you the MVP of the holidays, it was the ham biscuits. You don't need an occasion for the ham biscuits. Have them for breakfast. Do what you want. They got all sorts of prepared meals at the Butcher's Market. They're all fantastic. And of course, our friends at Mosquito Authority, Pest Authority, don't be like me and let things slack when it comes to your pest control so that when you go up in the attic to put Christmas stuff away, you find things that you wished you didn't find. So check out bugsbite.com. Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority will help take care of those issues. And it's not too early to start thinking about the outside of your house. Yeah, it's freezing right now. Yes, we have the threat of snow.
It's cold.
But that does not mean that we won't be warming up soon, and you will need mosquito control. So contact them today and get yourself set up for the spring and summer. All right, let's get out of here on some Hey Joe. Let's go to the Twitter machine where our guy Hunter welcomed me to the Mommy Fan Club after our conversation about the WWE and Rhea. The Young Gravy also texted me too. He's like, if you're going to be a part of the fan club, you at least got to get the name right.
Yes.
Look, I am late to the game on this. I have not been watching the WWE. I would say was a very good performance that I watched on Monday night.
I would just say to you, prepare yourself for your social media feed. Because, yeah.
Well, the algorithm on Reels feeds you what you engage with.
Mm-hmm.
Are you telling me that my Reels is about to get a little different?
Yeah.
Because right now it's just like old technology and cats.
Because she's not like 90s, like going to be in Playboy. I don't even think Playboy
No.
Like she's not like that WWE. But like, maybe unfortunately for her, like she is like this, I don't know. Do we still do things called sex symbols? Are you allowed to be a sex symbol?
You can call her a diva. Because that's what they were labeled. That's how that position was labeled in the WWE. But she's not. That's why. And that's the thing. That's why I was like completely fascinated. Anyway,
I mean, the outfits that she does wear to wrestle in, like there are some angles, and like there are people. This was on my timeline. In full disclosure,
yeah,
it was like the person who took this picture of Rhea Ripley deserves an award.
Anyway, yeah, I'll be watching.
That'll
Raw.
be on your timeline.
I'll be watching Raw more often. Let's go to the OG sports phone, shall we? Let's play the jingle one more time.
919-444-2211. Call the OG sports phone and curse or don't.
All right, this came to us. I think this is from a 336.
After that scathing Dave Doran episode, I just wanted to call in and say, I'm not trying to hype up Dave Doran, but the nice thing about Dave Doran is you know exactly what you have. You have a 4-win floor and a 9-win ceiling. You have a 67% chance at a winning season, a 33% chance at a 9-win season. And from what I can tell, what the NC State fan base really wants is an ACC championship. With the dissolving of the divisions in the ACC, the only way to do that is to win 10 games. And Dave Doran's not going to do that. So now we have a question. Can we hire a guy that can win 10 games with the financial commitment that is currently being provided to our program? I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know what we do, but I find it much more likely that for our team in the coming years, with a new coach, we'll be labeled as triangle bad.
Well, you know how I feel about that.
That's a classic be careful what you wish for
Sure.
type call. We've gotten a lot of those.
Sure.
We've gotten a lot of those. From Sean on Blue Sky, fully recognizing my bias, that dunk, Cooper Flagg, was good, but it was not what they're trying to make it right now on the ACC network. Guy just said it's the best dunk he's seen in his life. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the era that we live in where people just kind of, yeah. Also, when I was on Blue Sky last night, Adam Rowe, who works for one of the Blue Devil, I think it's the 24/7 Blue Devil site. Adam's good dude, been doing it for a long time. He had put out putting the clamps on Damian Dunn there, Knipple clamps, if I may. No, we're not. You may not. We're not doing this. We are absolutely not. We are not calling defensive stops by Con Knipple, putting the Knipple clamps down. Okay, not doing that. Let's see from Brant. It was January 2000 for that white hurricane that hit the East Coast. I thought we were talking about Eric Staal. Different thing. Raleigh got like 2.5 feet of snow, and Columbia got like 15 inches. Yeah. Now I remember. Yeah, a lot of people pointed out that the snow that I was referencing was from 2000. There's a big long thing here about pricing that we'll tackle in the OG mailbag. Shout out to Heel. Yeah, he wants longer podcasts. Well, you're getting another one today. From Mr. J Hall 3, State did beat App in 2006, but I don't know that a 23-10 score was the beating the brakes off of someone, maybe the windshield wipers.
Yeah, I mean, you got to understand that was a 3-9 State team. So yes, that did count as beating the brakes off of them.
Fair. And of course, Curtis Giglio, hot dog king of Garner.
Why not?
Print the t-shirt. Print the t-shirt. Let's make that happen. And let's see. This was from yesterday's show. From the NC State moderator about the soft NFL. He said it was sarcasm. Sorry, my sarcasm meter was broken. From PD Pate, The Last Dance never truly lived up to the hype. It was more so a benefactor of the environment right when COVID hit, when no live sports was taking place. Yes and no.
I don't know. That was pretty well done.
It was well done, but yes, we did treat it like it was a sporting event every Sunday.
Hey,
what else do we have?
Let me tell you, I'm not slandering the thing that helped me sleep at night, okay?
And from Corey, we'll close on this. North Dakota State needs to join the ACC.
Yeah, why not?
Maybe that's the way they do. You, as the winner of the FCS, you get promoted to be the 16th team or the 15th team in the ACC. I got my math all wrong.
I think it's 18th at this point.
The 18th team. Sorry. I don't even know how many teams we freaking have. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for today's show. We will see y'all for an OG Butcher's Market live with our friend Brooke Pryor of ESPN. We'll get to the bottom of this take-off that will be happening between the Steelers and the Ravens because the takes are already written. They're just waiting to see which one they publish. We'll see you Thursday at 2 o'clock.